This story happened between 1986 and 1987. My father bought a farm in the Free State province of South Africa, which the locals called Gapamadi. It is Sotho, for the place where the blood flows. The first week or so, everything went without incident. I was about 3 at the moment, so this story is partly what I remember, and mostly what I'd been told. Around the 3rd night of the 2nd week in the new farmstead, there came a knock at the master bedroom's window. My dad opened the curtain to find no one there, and just as he got into bed for the 2nd time, there it was again, but this time from the kitchen at the other end of the house. So my dad got up again to find no one there. As he turned his back on the door, all hell broke loose. The knocking started again, but went in rapid succession from one window to the other, covering the whole house. As my dad gathered all of us together, it suddenly started hailing stones. It went on like this for the rest of the night until the first African plovers started their calls in the morning. Suddenly all went completely silent. It did not only torment us as the owners of the farm workers who were left the next morning didn't want to start work out of fear for the tokoloshe, a small creature used by witches to cause poltergeist-like activity, and may also take the form of an incubus, that they believed was responsible for the phenomenon. Most even left the same day. Things slowly escalated from there on, as if testing my parents' tolerance to its presence. I started calling for my mom lots of times while playing, bathing, etc., telling her to make the uncle leave, only for her to find no one there. Other spirits also started walking around the house and garden. I believe that these were former owners and inhabitants of our farm. They appeared to be wearing clothes from the early 1900s. There was an older gentleman around his 60s, smoking a pipe. The smell of pipe smoke would sometimes fill the living room, together with a young man around his early 30s haunting the house. On bright sunshine days, a woman also around her 30s would be seen cutting roses from the formal rose garden. A young girl judged by her height to be around 5 years of age running around her mother, both of them wearing bonnets as was the custom among Boer folk for centuries. A few nights later, most of my family was awake due to the activity and heard the neighing of horses in the old stone corral. There was the sound of hooves on the ground, the muted voices of men talking or discussing something, the sound of the heavy old iron gates being swayed open, followed by a voice calling, "Voorwaarts manne." It roughly translates from Dutch to "charge men." The horses would then bolt from the opened gates, circling the house, accompanied by the sound of horsewhips being used to encourage the horses to run faster. This usually lasted around 30 minutes every night. The creepy part is that the kraal was used by the Boers during the Anglo-Boer War of 1899. There are also some British graves in the middle of one of the cornfields, as a reminder of a Boer victory during some unnamed battle during the year 1900. One day my mother cried out in fear. Our healthy Boerboel dogs were lying on their backs with their eyes turned back in their sockets, their mouths foaming. At first, my parents thought that they were poisoned. My father fetched the pickup, put them on the back, and rushed towards town to take them to a vet. Just as my father exited the gate at the border of the farm, the dogs suddenly got up and acted as if nothing was wrong. This then continued countless more times, the dogs being immobilized for up to 15 minutes. Things quickly got worse from this point onwards. The stone throwing escalated. The sound of stones raining on the corrugated roof got worse, and it started finding human targets to throw stones at. My father and my 17-year-old brother were on the patio one evening as we started to get used to it, as it had not hurt us at the time. Suddenly a stone hit my brother on his forehead, immediately forming a bump. My father and brother both described the sound as a high-pitched whizzing noise, as if shot from a slingshot. The next day, my father installed strong spotlights around the house and cut all of the lovely fruit trees surrounding the house down in an attempt to catch the culprits, but to no avail. Everything continued as usual with no one in sight. It seemed as if the rocks being thrown materialized from thin air. At this stage, they started to focus on my brother. He stayed in his roomy one-bedroom flat about 10 miles from the main house, as it only had 3 bedrooms, and we were 4 children. He was studying for a year-end exam when something unseen but hairy and touchable started attacking him from his back. My brother was into bodybuilding at the stage and already had the big, burly Afrikaner built at that age, standing 1.98 meter tall and 105 kilo heavy with little fat, strangling him for what seemed like an eternity. An on-and-off struggle ensued when he finally broke loose from the invisible creature's grip. He was covered in blood and looked like he was strangled using a garrote wire, his chest cut by claws or blunt metal blades. Today in his 40s, he still bears the scars on his chest. He was not the only victim, as it turned out. My mom was lying on the bed reading as she usually did around the afternoon when suddenly she became paralyzed by something unseen. Shortly thereafter, a bulldog just appeared in the bedroom door. My mother said it felt like an eternity as she soaked in every detail of the entity. It also was a Boer bulldog, but he had a white spot between his eyes, whereas ours had black masks. His face was tinted reddish pink as if by blood, red slime dripping from its mouth. The dog then started to proceed towards her, jumping on the bed and then climbing onto her, pinning her down and paralyzing her, staring her in the eyes. After what must have felt like an eternity, he just jumped off and left the room. It happened a few times more. Even at night with my father next to her, being paralyzed, she could not alert my father. My aunt, being a stout Protestant Christian, came to visit as she did not believe the accounts related to her. By my mother, my niece, who was around 15 at the time, came with her. The first night there, their activity was a bit quiet. My sister and my niece were sitting in the bath that evening when a stone came flying through the window, cracking the bath between them. That first stone seemed to act like a catalyst, as the now normal activity immediately resumed. My aunt decided to brave the night and sleep over. When we woke up the next morning, my aunt and niece were gone. They packed their bags in the middle of the night and drove the nearly 400-kilometer home. I admire her for her bravery, as she had to go outside and walk the 20 miles to her car. She said something had happened in the spare bedroom shortly after switching the lights off. To this day, she refuses to tell us what exactly did happen. Although the activity usually started around dusk and continued until the first African plovers called in the early morning hours, activity started to happen during daylight hours as well. There would be whispering around the house, 2 dark shadows moving throughout the house. These same 2 dark shadows also circled the house every night. We believed that they were the cause of the poltergeist-like activity. It is reported by the natives that tokoloshis usually worked in pairs. The only time activity now ceased was when the police or people who did not have a close bond with the family visited, immediately resuming after they left. It was also at this time that spontaneous fires started around the employees' homes. It started almost harmless, but one day some of the employees came bashing at the door, screaming that one of the other workers' houses was burning down with flames already seeping through the windows. He was on leave and the door was locked from the outside with a strong deadbolt. When the door was finally opened, they witnessed that only the edges of the kitchen cupboards were burning. After the flames were extinguished and all of the smoke subsided, they were shocked to find that there was no damage apart from the burst windows and smoke damage. My parents now got desperate as my father had put all of their savings into a deposit for the farm. Selling it then would have financially ruined my parents. The church did not seem to care. Besides, they alleged that my parents did this for attention. My parents used to be respected people in town, as my father was head of the traffic department and a deacon in the church. Suddenly, people laughed behind their backs. Most of the town had abandoned my family at this stage. Some even accused my brother of staging it all. My dad was fed up with nothing working and contacted a traditional African witch doctor from the old Bafuthatswana he had heard of. When the witch doctor came, he first asked for a glass of water, looked into it, and told my father things of a very personal nature very few people knew of. Certainly no one in the town we stayed at. The witch doctor started to perform a cleansing ritual before he removed a few boxes filled with stuff like fingernail clippings, hair, etc. He then went on to tell my dad that the previous owner had put a curse on the farm as he was peed off because he went bankrupt and wanted no one else to stay for too long. After the purification ritual, a storm rolled in. Instead of thunder, we heard the sound of a baby crying, which was quite unsettling. The wind swept across the entire 1,500-hectare farm, from one border fence to the other, and then everything abruptly came to a halt. Most will not believe me, but trust me, sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction. Immerse yourself in a world where the shadows whisper and the unknown beckons. Our playlist, Horror Stories in English, invites you to explore spine-chilling tales that will send shivers down your spine and keep you on the edge of your seat. From haunted houses to eerie encounters, each story is carefully crafted to ignite your imagination and leave you craving more. If you enjoy our horror stories, remember to like and share the video. Don't forget to subscribe to Kreepy Corner for the newest movie updates. Thanks for watching.